5 rounds. Every card tells a story. Some people watch fights. We study them.
From the Prelum lights to the title fight glow, every round got a lesson if you're watching it slow. Not chasing hot takes, we're chasing what's true. Finding diamonds in the regional scene before they break through. We respect every style, every path, every craft. Break and take frame by frame while the rest just react. No gimmicks, just rhythm, every breakdown precise. Where the numbers meet the nuance, that's the edge, that's the price.
Hey, folks, this podcast is brought to you by King Arthur Capital Group. Fund your fight camp, showing fighters how to leverage credit and capital so they can treat their career like a business. Love sharing that information with as many people out there in the combat sports world as possible. So, the sport will only grow in health and in quality when fighters at all levels are as comfortable financially in pursuing their careers as possible. So if you want to, treat your career more like business, help fund your fight camp, looking to, work a little smarter, a little bit more comfortably along the way, hit up King Arthur Capital Group at Fund Your Fight Camp on Instagram. Check out my Interlude episode with David King Arthur McElroy, too, for even grittier details on King Arthur Capital Group. Check out Fight Club Crate, mystery fight gear, knockout prices, undisputed value, combat sports boxes delivered monthly. Use my promo code TAPTHAT15 for 15% off of your first purchase with Fight Club Crate. And, they're adding new cool stuff from different, companies and whatnot all the time to their monthly subscription boxes. Finally, a winner of a gift idea for the combat connoisseur in your life. So, again, check them out on Instagram at Fight Club Crate. And last but not least, Substats is the analytics platform for competitive grappling, giving promoters, leagues, commentators the data they've never had, matchmaking tools, athlete profiles, event breakdowns, and match analysis powered by computer vision. If you compete, you promote, you just love the sport of competitive grappling, check them out at substats.app and on Instagram at Substats. If you're into competitive grappling, Substats is building the analytics layer the sport has been missing with athlete profiles, event intelligence, and match breakdowns. Again, check them out at substats.app or on Instagram at Substats. Promo code TAPTHAT for 10% off of your initial purchase with Substats. And check out my Interlude episode with Abraham Diaz to get a peek into the brilliant mind behind Substats. What's up, everybody? This is another Interlude episode of the Tap That MMA podcast. We've got UFC 329 tomorrow.
I want to tell me what you see. Let's go ahead and see by the fight what you saw in the ring.
So check out the episode that me and Connor Bone Sloan put out this week with all of our picks for UFC 329. I might be doing a video just later tonight with a little conversation about PFL Mania, Octagon, some boxing, trying to do more of that stuff and put out more short videos and whatnot. Check out all the recent Interlude episodes I've put out with Cornell Beecham Jr., with Chad Fishburne, with with Charles Miller of Striker Fight Network. Love all those folks. Very interesting conversations. So follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA and on YouTube and Spotify at Tap That MMA Podcast. And let's see, I want to get it to the right spot here. With me this evening, this guy is an amateur lightweight fighter coming out of Canada in Alberta, 30 years old. And with some interesting things to deal with as a fighter, for sure. Give it up for Sean Sugar Free Carroll. Sean, thank you so much for being here tonight. Finally, glad we finally got to do this. How's it going, man?
Thanks for having me, man. Things are going good. Just got done training, just hanging out outside, trying to enjoy the weather while it's here.
So, first off, I have to commend you because given the given the things that you particularly deal with health wise as a fighter, the branding is brilliant. Sugar Free.
Thanks, man.
Fantastic nickname. Like we're so used to seeing Sugar or whatever as a nickname in MMA. Never have we seen Sugar Free and applied to a fighter with diabetes. It's brilliant. It came together perfectly, and it rolls so well with your actual name.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I figured, everyone comes up with a nickname that's like badass or, sounds cool. And I just needed to come up with something that was marketable and kind of highlighted myself, which is, I'm a fighter with type 1 diabetes. So put a little more of my personal thing onto the sugar and just add sugar free. Yeah, it's funny, man. Everyone likes it, so I stuck with it.
I mean, the possibilities are endless there. Like with merch, like T-shirts with like a pack of gum says Sean Carroll Sugar Free, like on the pack of gum. There's so many possibilities out there, and fighter branding is always something we're talking about on here. And I always say, like with fighter nicknames, when you're the hitman, when you're the assassin, when you're the pick a handful of other, like if you have a nickname that is one of the template default nicknames you can choose on like the UFC video game for creative you might as well not even have a nickname. It doesn't set you apart at all, and it's not unique. The point of a nickname is to set you apart and be unique. And if it's an alliteration, that's one thing. You can always go the nice alliteration, but it's the memorable, unique nicknames that people remember. For God's sake, Damian Penis, who, first of all, his last name is pronounced penis, basically. If you didn't remember him already for that, the Damian Penis fighting out of Aruba and fighting on the card this weekend, his nickname is the Baba Yaba. Very memorable stuff. So no, like, is that something that like you gave yourself, or is it something that like you kicked back and forth with like training partner? I know how nicknames like tend to get created. So like how did that come to be?
Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, there was definitely a few other nicknames I tried. I guess I would say that I came up with myself, and they didn't stick, and they weren't my brand, I would say. And so I kind of big shout out to Chance Kressinger. I was working with Evo for a bit, and he was the one kind of like giving me the idea. Like you're type 1 diabetic. You want to brand yourself, want to make yourself known, and which I did. Like my whole point of fighting is to, bring awareness to type 1 diabetes and things like that. So coming up with Sugar Free was just a way to kind of bring comedy to, my fight name, but also bring awareness to like why, or like who I am, I guess I should say. Sugar Free is a good, people are going to be like, why is it Sugar Free? Go to my profile. They'll see that I'm type 1 diabetic. So yeah, man, shout out to Evo for giving me that idea and for kind of getting me branding myself the proper way, just like you were saying.
And it's weird because, like, just being aware of like gym social dynamics. I know that like people's coaches aren't calling like, "Hey, we should call you the assassin, Jim." Like Jim, the assassin Marshall, or something. Like, I know no one probably is saying that. It's lame as hell. And some nicknames are unique, but like they're not necessarily like cool sounding for fighters. And I think sometimes you just gotta roll with that. Like I'll say for like for Andre Feely, I would say he has the worst nickname in the UFC, but like I remember it. Andre Touchy Feely.
Yeah.
Like the guy that's the Muay Thai coach at the gym that I go to. He calls me mascot man because I always am just wearing like shirts with different teams on them. And everybody else is wearing like rash guards and stuff. And I'm like wearing like a UK or a Cincinnati Red shirt. And like mascot man, that's very unique. definitely never heard of a fighter with that nickname. I don't know if I would want it announced if I was coming out to fight, but I think you might just have to roll with it. So it's always I feel bad for people that get like stuck with a really bland nickname, and it's like, well, what, like you're gonna fix your nickname yourself? You're gonna go to the drawing board and come up with your own? You can't. That's illegal.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you can't be like, hey, can you guys start calling me the samurai sword? You can't do that either.
Yeah.
Like it
No.
has to be organic. And so on the diabetes point, so is type 1 diabetes something that everybody has from like very early in life, or is there ever like a later onset of it?
Yeah, so there's two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. I like to explain it to people like type 2 diabetes is kind of what you can give yourself, with being unhealthy or inactive or old or like a combination of three. Type 1 is like, it's an autoimmune disease. They used to call it juvenile diabetes, but now as time has went on, like we're seeing people get it in their late 20s, sometimes early 30s, even 40s. So yeah, it's just basically an autoimmune condition where my body doesn't produce insulin. Insulin is what helps break down glucose in your blood, like which is sugar. And so yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 7. I fell into a coma. Like my parents thought I was just sick. I was sick for like 2 days, and then I fell into a diabetic coma. And then came to, and yeah, they were like, "You have diabetes." The first thing I asked the doctor was like, "How long till I get better?" And he was like, "Hate to break it to you, buddy, but you don't." So yeah, I'm 30 now, so I've been diabetic for longer than I haven't. But it's just something I kind of had to learn to live with, and I do live with, right? It's something I just deal with day to day.
Christ, dude, that is why I would have never been a medical professional, is because like I cannot imagine having to tell a young kid like, when do I get better from this? Like, oh fuck, like can we get someone else in here to deliver this like
Yeah.
news? It's like it's like what my, my day job is, I'm a lawyer, and I just do VA disability benefits for people who get out of the US military, any branch of it, and they have disabilities that they get compensation for based on how severe their conditions are. And so I don't deal much with type 1 diabetes, but I deal a lot with people who have type 2 diabetes. And
Mhm.
so are there similar risks of complications? Like is the development of like neuropathy and retinopathy and other things like that like something that you have to think about as you go on?
Yeah, big time. So the complications for both types of diabetes are the same. Um, if I let my blood sugars get out of control and don't take care of myself, yeah, neuropathy, like eye damage, kidney failure, things like that. They're always things that I have to worry about. So yeah, they're definitely things that are always on my mind. I think that's what being a martial artist has kind of helped me with, is like living a healthier lifestyle, just being conscious of physical activity, and yeah, just not accepting like a lifestyle of being sediment and not doing anything, right? And because that's what kills diabetics, honestly, is people get diabetes who maybe never were active in their life, and that's why they got diabetes, or they're type 1 and their family maybe didn't get them exercising at a young age, get that as like a habit like my parents did, and then they kind of suffer. So it's unfortunate, but people that have diabetes kind of have to learn that like the only way that you can manage it is kind of by exercise, eating properly, and just being on top of it. It's annoying, but yeah, like you're saying, like I work in a homeless shelter in my city, and it's the same thing. Like I deal with a lot of people with complications with type 2 diabetes, and it's not pretty by any means, man. People with their feet amputated, or or going blind, or can't feel their feet, things like that. So yeah, it's not a fun thing to like let free and just not care about, right? You kind of it's every day, like it's an everyday thing. I think about it every second of every day. So
Yeah, and for all those reasons, like it's a big issue in VA disability benefits, because if you can if you can prevail on the point that the person probably got diabetes in some way because of their military service, whether it be like a toxic exposure, or whether it be like they messed up their back so bad, or they have COPD and they can't exercise like over a
yeah,
long period. if they have diabetes and they're people in their 50s, 60s, whatever, it's not just the diabetes, which gets rated based off of like, are you insulin dependent? But then how would you have to monitor your diet? Do you have to monitor also your level of physical activity? Then there's also the neuropathy that comes on both leg. There's the retinopathy, and then there's a lot of things that can be secondary to it, like things that impact, the kidneys and, urinary frequency, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's such a web that it can spread out into. And I have to imagine, like, it sounds like you've had the very right attitude about this for a long time, and you do everything that you want to do. At the same time, I have to imagine that it is inevitable that this impacts the way that you go about your week and that you train. Like, it has to a little bit.
100%, man. Like, I'd be lying if I said like I had it 100% in control and that like it didn't affect my training or my day-to-day living, but it does. A good example, like another guy, he's fighting on the Contender Series soon. His name's John Kuhneman. He has type 1 diabetes, and if you follow his stories on Instagram or his posts, he talks a lot about like getting low blood sugar in the middle of training, or like he's a avid hiker and outdoorist, and so he'll be like on the top of a mountain and having to give himself insulin, and I mean like on top of a mountain, like a peak. And so yeah, it's tough, man. Like there's times where I'll get like my blood sugar will crash extremely hard after training when I'm supposed to be like getting ready for bed. And so then I have to stay up later than I want to and take care of that. And then, I get up in the morning and I'm tired because I didn't get as much sleep from having to deal with the blood sugars. And then I got to, get up at 5 in the morning and go to my day job. And so being tired and, not having enough sleep, that affects your blood sugar. And so it's just like a roller coaster of things that just kind of fuck you up if you let them, right? But you kind of just take it on the chin and just try to keep it as straight as you can, man, and deal with it as it comes. But it is a lot of just being on top of it and kind of not letting yourself slip out of routine. That's really the biggest thing, is just like keeping a routine and being honest with yourself. Easier said than done. I'm not perfect by any means. Like I like to have my my candy here and there and whatnot.
I mean, so how, when you're preparing to actually be in a fight, do you have the routine down of how you make sure you're as ready to go as possible by fight night? Or is that something that's just kind of like on a case by case basis and is always different?
Yeah, man, it's been trial and error for my whole amateur career, like figuring out how to cut weight, figuring out how to train around my diabetes. And it's just been like trial and error. I think like now around 10 fights in, I'm getting the hang of like weight cutting, keeping my blood sugar stable during training, after training, while I'm at work. But the most difficult thing I think for me is weight cutting. Like being a type 1 diabetic, it takes a lot of it's like, it's not the weight cut itself, like the water load and cutting the water and things that suck for me. It's the dialing in my eating to the point, like over that 9-week fight camp, where I'm not crashing during training, but I'm also in a calorie deficit to lose like body fat. And then, showing up to fight week at a healthy enough weight that I can cut the weight and be still in like, decent enough shape. And so that's something I'm learning on the go. I'm working with a guy, his name's Ridley. He's like lives out in Thailand. He's a type 1 diabetic, this British dude, but he helps like type 1 diabetic jiu-jitsu fighters and MMA guys, kickboxers, kind of like lock in their, weight cuts and eating and just everything, man. I kind of reached out to him on a whim, just seeing him online, and he's going to help me with this fight camp that I'm going to be starting here soon for my fight in October. So hopefully, hopefully just fight by fight, get better at this weight cutting thing. I've been fighting at lightweight most of my amateur career, and I'm like I'm a smaller lightweight, I guess you would say. And in the game of professional MMA, a lot of these guys at 55 are cutting from like 180, 185. And if I'm cutting at like 170, it's just, it's a recipe for disaster, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And like, I mean, have you encountered a situation in a fight yet where you could feel like, some effect of it taking its toll?
No, I definitely like jiu-jitsu tournaments. I've felt it where like, yeah, like, you're hanging out all day, kind of waiting around. And then like, if you've got like an 8-man bracket and you're like, you know, going hard matches and your blood sugar drops and then you got to eat. Like I felt it there, but fights, man, like 15, 25-minute window have never been an issue for me. I've never like had low blood sugar mid fight. I've definitely had it like a little bit high, like things like adrenaline can make your body, like your liver release sugar and make your blood sugar go up. So like more often than not after fights, even like after like a hard training session, especially if it's sparring, my blood sugar will be a little bit cranked, which sucks. That can like take a toll on your cardio a bit, but no, like, yeah, I've never had to crash in a fight. I've never had it where my blood sugar's been like extremely high before a fight. It's always just kind of like a matter of keeping it in between that line of like, okay, I feel good enough where I can go out there. So it's just something I had to deal with, man. Like even if my blood sugar was super high before a fight, I would have to just go out and do it. It's what I signed up for, and it's just kind of what it's like. It's my disease, right? So I have to manage it accordingly.
And I've had Dre Miley on this podcast, who is nicknamed the One-Eyed Dragon because he is blind in one of his eyes. I've had Josiah Harrell on here, who he's been in the UFC, and he was the dude who was supposed to make a short notice debut against Jack Della Maddalena years ago, and then he got Moya and had to have like brain surgery.
Yeah.
We've seen dudes like Nick Newell, who doesn't have arms. Greg Hardy, even like with his asthma, that took a toll on him in every single fight he ever lost. Let alone one. Is like getting the green light from commissions in Canada. Has that been any issue at all?
Dude, Canadian MMA commissions are a fucking joke, man. We don't have like a regulated commission like provincial commissions, right? So like in Alberta where I live, we've got like Lethbridge has their own fight commission. We have Penhold Commission, which they'll commission fights in Calgary and Red Deer. Then there's like Sutina Fight Commission because they have like fights on reserves and stuff, and they're all different. I fought in all of them, and some of them will let me bring like glucose tabs in my bag in the back warm-up room, so if I get low blood sugar. Some of them will let me have my glucose monitor so I can test my blood. Some of them won't. Some of them will go as far as to like not let me have glucose monitor, glucose tabs, anything, to where I have to like leave the venue to go check my blood. It's retarded, but again, something I just don't let it stress me out and just deal with it as it comes, right?
I mean, because that would be the case probably anywhere. Like I know there's probably a little bit more consistency across many of the different United States, but like even for Josiah Harrell, after his Moya, he had brain surgeons like writing letters to commission saying he's good now. And New York was like, we still don't want to do it. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows who the people are on these commissions, how they get these jobs or what their background. Yeah. But you'd like to see more consistency between. At the very least, it'd probably make it easier for you, to know if they're not going to allow glucose tabs. If they are, either way, you'd just like to see some consistency, across these bodies in Canada. And like my knowledge of Canadian geography is like I can't think there's too many commissions out there.
Yeah, it's just because MMA in Canada, man, isn't as unified as it probably should be or could be, and so like a lot of our commissions are like volunteer basis, so they kind of get made out of a whim. So I can't blame my country for having shitty commissions. It's just how MMA is in our country. But yeah, to quote my boy Max Holloway fighting tomorrow, it is what it is, man. Just take it as it is.
Because there's plenty of things I like about Canadian MMA. Because you've fought in a handful of different promotions in Canada. The most notable of which is Unified MMA. We've seen them on UFC Fight Pass for quite some time. We've seen countless prospects at least make their way to the Contender Series and several other high level promotions. What I like that Canada does is what I know about like Canadian tax benefits is that there's always a greater benefit to having more Canadians involved in whatever you're doing project wise. I like I remember with like TV and film and stuff, like there's huge tax benefits to just hiring Canadian actors if you want to film in Canada. So the Canadian promotions naturally there's a lot of they're a great showcase of Canadian talent, of which has always been present in MMA. Arguably the greatest fighter of all time is a French Canadian dude. And what I like that they also do is that they've experimented with a lot of different weight classes, especially in unified. They do fun like kind of like side quest belts too, like between I forget what that dude's name is. I think his name's Alex. He white dude wears a headband. Like they have like belts like kind of like a veterans of this promotion kind of like belt, or they'll do like 160-pound title fight, 100 like. I really like that they do stuff like that. And I don't know what will eventually get the rest of the MMA world to adjust weight classes accordingly. Because I mean, as you're dealing with it too, the weight cutting and you being a small lightweight, it's not just saying like there got to be more weight class because some people can't make weight. Like some people don't make weight because they don't do what they're supposed to do. But forget that. The point is you don't want to have to cancel fights. And the entertainment value is always going to be better if guys are fighting at the exact weight that they should be. So from a bottom line standpoint, I've always liked that Canada has, experimented a little with different weight classes. And I think you get fighters that are fighting at more appropriate weights because of it.
Yeah, 100%, man. Unified's cool for that, having like that 165, 175 division, like even a 195 division. I like that. More weight divisions won't hurt anyone, and I like what Unified's doing. Sonny's a good dude, man. Unified MMA putting Canada fighters on the map. Shout out to my boy Ramil Kamalov. He's a Unified 155 dog. No one wants to fight him, so watch out for that guy. He'll be in UFC soon.
So all your fights so far have been in Canada. I believe you have 9 MMA fights and then 1 Muay Thai fight. And they've all, there's been a lot of action in Alberta. I am figuring you're very local to the Red Deer area. Of which what I know about is that there's a minor league hockey team in Red Deer. And Canada is such a large country area wise. There's so much space up there. And you've been with a handful of different promotions, ranging from Unified, which is a very recognizable promotion. You were with Havoc for, a few fights there. And then your most recent fight was like Okanagan Fighting Championship. They must be pretty new. I haven't heard of them, and that was their 3rd event, but it's a cool. Absolute MMA. I feel like there's like 10 Absolute MMAs throughout North America. Like what's your experience been as far as like the differences in quality and convenience, professionalism between some of those promotions?
It's cool. Like having all those like little pop-up promotions, or I don't even want to say pop-up, just like competitive regional scene promotions, like because Unified's the big dog. They promote on shows, but it's hard because that they're the big dog. It's hard to get on their card sometimes if you're just like a guy with a couple fights, or you're an amateur just trying to get your name out there, get some fights. And so cards like Rumble in the Cage, Absolute MMA, Okanagan FC, like they're starting to pop up, and they put on good shows, man. Like the Okanagan FC, they had a wicked venue, dude. It was like small, but like really personal. The walkouts were cool. The cage was really nice. Absolute MMA is probably like, again, shout out to Champions Creed, Brian Bird, Ramil, and all those guys that run Absolute MMA. Their card's probably one of the most professional and like fun I've fought on. They had like a nice warm up, like it's in a hotel. Each corner has like their own big like hotel room with mats, like actual mats in the middle. They stream the fights in the back, so you can like watch the fights on like a live stream. And like one thing I kind of judge a lot of these regional promotions by is their streaming. Like, it doesn't have to be like, you know, fireworks and all that kind of stuff. Like, it just has to be like a clean stream with like good camera angle. And I find that Absolute MMA does like a really good job of that. Like, they got like wicked cage angles. There's never any like weird shots of like where you can't see what's going on. Havoc MMA, yeah, they're out of Red Deer, kind of like my hometown. They have like they do a lot for their fighters, for like walkouts, venue, warm up area. Like the warm up area is super nice. The walkout is like sweet, man. Like a dark room. They've got like lights and smoke and all that. So it really gives like the amateurs the feel of being like on the big show. And because like Red Deer is in between Calgary and Edmonton, Havoc gets like a lot of people, like 1,000 to 1,500 people. So it is like a big show to have like your first couple amateur fights on. So yeah, man, it's been cool. I like just going around and fighting on these little promotions. It's just an experience for me.
And yeah, so I just looked it up too, and so where you're fighting out of, you're like a little over an hour from Calgary, as I understand it, and like kind of like a little over an hour, like in between 1 and 2 hours from Edmonton. So
Yeah.
like you're actually in a decent spot there, where like you wouldn't necessarily have to travel too far, to find one of the bigger cities that there'd be somewhere to compete with.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like you're in driving distance from a lot of fight promotions, which is always gives you a lot of options. Which is super nice. So, like 10 years ago, man, when I first started like getting into the competitive side of martial arts, this wasn't really around. There was like 1 or 2 fight cards a year in Calgary or Edmonton, and so seeing like having like 6 to 10 events a year, in Alberta is pretty crazy, and it's cool. It just gives these young guys more to work with and like more experience to fight and get their name out there. Wasn't really around when I was coming up.
Now, like, so like I've been to Edmonton on one occasion. I think it was like in like January or February, which was
I'm sorry.
I did like when we were there, it was like, yeah, like downtown, like it could be like, I don't know, -20 with the wind right now, and that wouldn't be like too bad. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like I see why they built such a big mall in Edmonton, because everybody, even people who are from Canada are trying to get inside. It's cold as hell there, but Edmonton was a very interesting city, like a lot of character and culture to it. And so, like, what cities right now are kind of thought of as like the ones with the more burgeoning MMA scenes?
Yeah, Calgary definitely has like more gyms, I would say, than Edmonton does. Like Edmonton's got like a few small ones. They got one kind of powerhouse gym called Kingdom MMA. Shout out to Craig, Shintani, and Aaron. They run that gym. They're like, it's like a big gym, but they run like a disciplined program. All their guys are like really well-rounded MMA fighters. And then yeah, they got like a couple smaller gyms, Shave Bears MMA, Ludus and stuff. But then Calgary's got like a few really good gyms. Like they got Champions Creed, Dynamis, Kodokan. I think it's called Dojo 9 now. They've got LFG. Yeah, like they've just got a bunch of gyms with like really good pro fighters, and so it brings a really good competitive scene. So what me and my teammates do, like, and a lot of the other guys from Red Deer, Innisfail areas, we on weekends we'll either drive up to Edmonton or Calgary for like open invite sparring and just kind of go get some work with those guys, and then drive all the way back. That's like a fight camp ritual. Is we all decide what gym we're going to train at for the fight camp, whether it be in Calgary or Edmonton. Pick either a Saturday or Sunday, and then yeah, we all carpool up and go spar and get some looks from the big city guys, and then head back to our small town and game plan.
Now, like, I don't know if there's ever been an opportunity that like you maybe would have had, or if there's ever been anything like this on the horizon, but I'm sure that plenty of people that it is for. Like, is it a giant pain in the ass for where you guys are to get to like Anchorage or like Seattle? Like, is that something that people do pretty frequently?
I wouldn't say Alaska is one where people from Alberta go. Montana is like the closest state to us, so I know
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like the easiest access one, but I know a lot of guys will go from like that fight in Lethbridge will fight in like guys that are out of Lethbridge will fight in Montana a lot because it's like a pretty easy drive, and they've got, I know, man, Montana's like the wild west of MMA, so they've got like a lot of promotions that are always having fights on down there. And but I've never personally been offered to fight in Montana. I would love to, but yeah.
Okay, so like now, yeah, your amateur career started back in February 2018. So it's this been a. I mean, you were 22 at the time, presumably 22 or 23. Now, over the last, let's say over the last 5 fights, so like your last win was at Havoc FC 17 against Dot Lee. You got the second round KO. That was February of 2024. That was your 3rd win in your amateur career. And actually, interestingly enough, all 3 have come with Havoc FC. Just noticed that. Like, what do you think so far in the fights that have gone your way? What do you think are the things that are working for you? And what do you think are like, what do you think are the linchpins of your success that you're trying to like, capture and improve on with, each of your next fights?
Yeah, man. So with me, it's like my coaches, past and present, could all attest to this. It's always come down. I'm that guy that's good in the gym, but maybe folds under pressure in the cage. And so my wins and my losses have always come down to what my mental state is at, and like how mentally resilient I am at the time. I'm not going to say that like every loss was just me losing to myself, but a lot of them were. A few of them I can definitely name where just like the guy was more skilled than me. But yeah, just my wins come when I'm in the best headspace and when I'm confident in myself, and have the right internal dialogue. And then my losses come when I doubt myself, get scared, can't pull the trigger, and you pay the price for that. But my last fight there in Okanagan, I lost. I kind of sustained an injury mid-fight that I was kind of dealing with most of the fight camp and kind of put it in the back of my head. But I lost the fight, but that was probably the best I've ever felt headspace-wise. Like, first round on trading on the feet, I was stuffing his takedowns, kind of beating him up a little bit, and then I just folded my fucking ankle and couldn't stuff his takedowns. He ended up submitting me in the second round. But I felt great, and I think that's like I'm at that point now where I'm getting over that mental hurdle part of fighting, and I can kind of just go out there and express myself a little better without having to let the nerves kind of get in the way of my performance. So with that being said, I'm making my pro debut October 3rd for Rumble in the Cage. So it's time to make some money when I'm fighting, and take that next step.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. And was that in that Okanagan fight, was that for the Okanagan amateur lightweight title? Because it doesn't say that on your Tapology, but is it on the other dudes?
It was, yeah. It was for the lightweight title. They kind of offered it to me on a whim. I think they, seeing my record being like a losing record and stuff, and the prior Okanagan FC card, one of my teammates fought on them. 2 of them were supposed to fight on it, but I expressed interest to the Raj, the guy that runs the promotion, that I wanted to fight. And so we kept in touch over the course of the year. And then, he kind of hit me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to be on the card?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And then he's like, "Okay, I'll get back to you." A couple weeks went by. He said, "Hey, I'd love to have you in the card. How would you feel about fighting for the lightweight title?" I said, "Fuck yeah, like, sign me up. I'd love to win a title." And then it ended up being against his kind of one of his top amateur guys who actually had beat my teammate the year prior. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go out there, get revenge, go out to BC in the springtime, summertime, and fight for a title. Yeah, it didn't go my way, but it was cool, man. It was a wicked experience. Like, I was like the co-main event. The fucking building was packed. They were all booing me. It was cool. Didn't get the win, but yeah, I loved it, man.
I mean, and that's interesting too, that you say like that was the fight where you felt like you were in the best headspace, and it was for an amateur title in the circumstances you just described in enemy territory. So it's interesting that like those circumstances brought out like the best like mental approach and mental showing that you've had so far.
100%, man. Like me and my coach were talking about that. Like it was the most like mentally resilient I've ever been. Even with the loss, like I didn't take it too hard because like I left that cage knowing that like I showed up, the warm up, the walkout, the fight itself. I fought to the best of my ability and to the best of my capability. And yeah, I didn't get the win, but man, I felt like super good in there, and I was actually like loving every moment of it. And so yeah, I'm gonna take that feeling that I had there. I've been holding on to it since that fight, and I'm gonna take it into my pro fight and hopefully come out with a win and pocket full of cash.
And the awesome thing is like, so throughout, your amateur career, I know there have been stretches for you that had to have been tough, with some of those wins coming few and far between. And, it had to have been, challenging to, keep going in there and trying to perform your best. But the amazing thing is now you're 30 years old. That's correct, right? You're 30.
Yep.
And so one more, psychological maturity probably comes with that. And, so you're probably more prepared anyway. And in a spot in life that makes it a little bit easier to, be in the right headspace. But also in turning pro, that's got to be so refreshing for you because the amateur record doesn't mean shit anymore. You're about to be a 0-0 professional fighter. It's a fresh slate, and you're coming in off of a performance that was high stakes. It was higher attention. There was, it was a hostile crowd, and you came out very happy with the way that where your headspace was. So that's got to be, even though it wasn't a win, that has to be a great launching pad into a fresh start as a professional.
100%, man. Like after I lost, going back to my hometown and then healing up my injury, I made my way back out to Calgary just for some sparring. And yeah, a lot of those guys that are pros out there were telling me, like, I told them kind of everything I just told you about my headspace and stuff. And they're like, man, like, fucking go pro. You've been training, fighting a long time. When you're here and you're on your best, you can hang. So like, you might as well go out there and make some money. And like, while you still can, and while I'm still youngish, I mean, 30, but yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, fresh slate. It's not as like I'm not fighting for a title now, so it doesn't feel like it's as as insane. But I'm looking forward to it, man. Being able to throw knees and elbows and stuff is going to be really sick. I've always been kind of a striker, been known for that, so I'll be able to fully be free, man. Less rules, less padding. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And let's see, what was the next freaking thing about that? Son of a bitch. And that's the thing is because so much of the roots of North American combat sports are in boxing. An undefeated or like a really pretty unblemished record has always been more emphasized in the US. But if you look in more regional scenes and more like mid to mid upper level promotions across the world, like you go to Japan, Octagon, KSW, Australia, you see people with amateur records that look like yours all the time. And guys that are in Ryzen, that are 40 years old, their record's 38-22, and they're on a 7-fight winning streak. Those things really don't matter when in MMA as much as people are just kind of used to feeling about it, and so you see all the time people that, turn pro and they're, in the age range that you're in right now, and something clicks at the right point. They get something right and everything else just seems to go smoother. You get you get more attention at the gym, you have better training partner, and something just clicks. And like the fights that were not going as easily or as well as they wanted to for a long time, they start collecting wins over and over again.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like my coach always explains it, if you love it, you never really lose. You just kind of just keep competing. Like I think the moment when I want to quit is the moment where like I don't love competing anymore. And so when that time comes, that time will come. But for now, like the losses have never really bothered me. Like when I went on that 3-fight losing streak there before, I guess it was 4-fight if you include my Muay Thai fight, before beating Dat, I'm not gonna lie, like, yeah, I was a little mentally beaten, 4 losses in a row. The echoes of like my neighborhood and martial arts community was like that, I'm kind of just that guy that'll never really beat someone competitive. And, when I beat Dat Lee, I was like, fuck man, fuck them. Like, I love this shit. The odds were against me again and I won. And I'm going to kind of keep chasing that feeling, man. Like my coach, when I got my blue belt, my coach described me as the Japanese saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8. I think it is. I'm not sure, but I've been the definition of that my whole life, dude. I'm type 1 diabetic. I'm not supposed to be a fighter or an athlete by any means. And I keep showing up. So I'm going to keep showing up until I don't want to show up anymore. And that's how it's going to be.
And the thing is, and this doesn't, this isn't a universal feeling. It's for people that are into this sort of thing. But the fact is, it is really fun to compete in combat sports, whether it is in an actual competitive official arena, whether it is in the gym and it's sparring or rolling. That there is no more fun form of physical activity in my view. There's lots of things to do out there. Not everybody gets to feel that because they just don't get to experience it. But yeah, I see why people go on fighting for as long as they possibly can because it is fun as shit. And there's not many things in life that can imitate those kinds of feelings that, that the adrenaline or, the excitement, how hyped up you get. Like there's no other avenue in the world. You can't walk into the office in the morning and play a song and walk out to applause as you get into your office. Those are just opportunities that, like not a lot of people will have ever in their lifetime.
Yeah, man. I try to explain that to like the young guys in my gym. A big thing of like my record, like fighting like once a year was kind of, again, going back to those nerves of like, overthinking it and thinking about, winning or losing or getting hurt. And then as I like, fought more and got older and time passed by, I was like, fuck man, I spent so much time, thinking about that as opposed to just like going after it and enjoying myself. And so, yeah, like going back to what you said, like life's boring. And if outside of high school, like when you're done high school sports or recreational sports, life gets boring. And a lot of men and women too fall into this like mundane, get up, go to work, live for the weekend kind of life. But fighting, martial arts, competing, it gives you that kind of that feeling of there's something more to life than just, going to work. And so I love it, man. It sounds cliche, but because everyone says it, but yeah, martial arts and MMA saved my life, and I owe it my life to it. So yeah.
I can't believe how many people in this world don't have like hobbies or passions outside of their job, whatever you would call any of these things, depending on people's commitment level. I cannot believe that there are people that don't have something that it's like, yeah, like this is what I do during the day. Love that. And then this is what I'm doing like on weekends and night, and like this is what I'm focused on for that. Like you gotta have something like that. Whatever it may be. That is the fuel that that stokes the fire of life, is having stuff like that gets you energetic. And you almost like, it's good to have things that you can get like obsessed about. I think
Yeah, man.
yeah, that sounds neurotic and maybe on it, but I think that it is a healthy thing to have things that you just get like obsessed about. I've always been like a dive in head first to something kind of person. I don't like to spectate. I like to participate in stuff that I really enjoy. This is the format that I have taken for a lot of that. But it's good to have stuff that you get obsessed about. I think that that's good for the brain. I can't prove that, but it seems like it is.
Yeah, man. Passion is important in life. If you don't have passion, you're wasting your time.
Now, folks, I'm gonna share my screen real quick as we get to the conclusion here. So, 1 second here. Okay. Share my screen right now. This is from Sean's Instagram page. You can find him on Instagram at Suga_free403. Catchy handle, too. Sponsorship opportunities for anybody interested in sponsoring Sean leading up to his fight at Rumble in the Cage 72, October 3rd, 2026, in his professional debut. Hit him up on Instagram. He lays it out pretty clearly for people. You see these graphics a lot. It's very effective. These graphics that people are using for those
The
things.
AI special, yeah.
Yeah, no, those look great. And so, Sean, this has been a very educational and entertaining conversation. I'm really glad that we got to do this tonight. We got UFC 329 tomorrow, which is going to be it's so funny because this is the kind of weekend where people that you know aren't into MMA tell you about the card. Like, who do you think?
Dude.
Who do you think is going to win? It's like, well, I put everything on DraftKings on Max Holloway minus 230. So that tells you. But Sean, thank you so much for being here, man. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck and health leading up to your pro debut. And if there's anything else that you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
No, man, I appreciate you having me. It's been awesome. Give me a follow, Sugar403. Come watch my fight October 3rd, Rumble in the Cage. Come watch me whoop some ass. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Folks, this has been another interlude episode of the Tap That MMA podcast. Check out the ones I put out previously. UFC 329 might be, that's coming up in, less than 24 hours. So maybe that, maybe you end up seeing this afterward. But check out Sean on Instagram. Keep an eye out for what he does for the rest of 2026. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy these fights and enjoy going over to the house of the casual MMA fan that's going to be having a party for this card. And peace. And let's play it off here.
Title fight. Every round got a lesson if you're watching it slow. Not chasing hot takes, we're chasing what's true. The Prelum lights to the title fight glow. Every round got a lesson if you're watching it slow. Not chasing hot takes, we're chasing what's true. Finding diamonds in the regional scene before they break through. We respect every style, every path, every craft. Break and take frame by frame while the rest